Why is this not? Oh my God. Oh, here it is. Okay. So I'm going to ask. Oh my God, I keep doing this. Wait a minute. Okay. I'm going to ask Linda to read some of this. Except I can't, I don't know why this keeps happening. Is it too small for you?
No, I've got my paper.
Yeah, your paper. Okay. So wait, I'm just trying to move it up and I don't know why.
Oh.
Every time I do that, it disappears. Let me do this.
Susan, I didn't hear the names of your two companions there because
Oh, it's Mary. Raise your hand, Mary, and Linda.
See us.
Linda. Okay. Linda, why don't you start?
Okay. God, I have a problem. A problem? What kind of problem, Eve? Well, I know you created me and provided me with this beautiful garden and all these wonderful animals, as well as that hilarious snake. But I'm just not happy. And why is that, Eve? I'm lonely and bored, and to be completely honest, I'm sick to death of apples. Well, Eve, in that case, I shall create a companion for you. I shall create a man. A man? What is that, God?
Okay, Mary.
A man is a flawed creature with aggressive tendencies, an enormous ego, and an inability to empathize or listen to you properly. He won't be that smart, so he will need your advice, and he'll have a limited emotional capacity. So don't expect him to remember your birthday or the day you met. But he will be bigger and faster and more muscular than you. Really good at fighting and hunting and kicking a ball. And he will satisfy your physical needs so well that you will never be bored again. Sounds great, said Eve, but what's the catch, God? Well, you can have him on one condition. And what's that, God? Though his ego will be big, it will be fragile. So you will have to let him believe that I made him first. And it will have to be our little secret, women to women.
Okay, so that's just all right. And how do I end? Oh my God, this is so different what I'm doing. I've never worked on I want to end the stop share. Okay. So that's like a joke, just a little joke I found about creation of Eve and whatever. But we are going to look at the creation story and what's fascinating about the creation story, because we're talking about relationships, there are two creation stories in the Torah. And most people, like Orthodox people, will say, well, one's really an extension of the other, but no. They were probably written by different authors. They're both very compelling. And so the rabbis, when they were putting together the Torah, because the stories were told and even written down, but until the rabbis, the sages, decided to turn the Torah into like it's called canonizing it, make it into an official document, they were picking and choosing. They were deciding how to end the chapters because it was all kind of run on and how to organize it. And apparently these two stories were so powerful and important that they included them. There is a theory that, there were really two kingdoms in the ancient Israel. There was called the kingdom of Judah and the kingdom of Israel. And there were 10 tribes in Israel, the kingdom, and 2 in Judah. And the 10 tribes were actually attacked in like the 800 BCE time by the Assyrians, and they were carried off into captivity, most of them. And those are what we know today as the 10 lost tribes. They were taken away, but a lot of them ran to Judah, and they brought their stories and their Torah and their traditions. And so some think that one of these is the creation story from Judah, and one of these is the creation story from Israel. And so they kept both. What's interesting is that there's a totally different worldview in the two stories. So we'll read the first story and talk about the worldview, and then we'll look at the second story, and in each one, man and woman are created, but completely differently. And it expresses two different points of view about the relationship between man and woman. So now I'm going to put this on the screen, but next week, everybody's going to have their own text. So I don't have to do this and we can just look at each other, which I prefer. And hold on, let me just open this. And it is Genesis. Here we go. Okay, now I will do this. Now I'm going to.
What's your name?
Nadine. Okay, and I'm gonna.
Mary and Linda.
Okay, I'm gonna share screen, and we're gonna look at Genesis. Okay, so everybody can see it, and I will read the actual story because there's I am so sorry. I'll learn how to do this. A philosophical idea that we need to understand. So I'm going to invite Susan Ehrlich to read. You can read from your H time or you can read this one.
Oh, well, this is bigger type. And
Okay, read this one.
So I just do this one. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was over the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And God said that the light was good. And God separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening and there was morning the first day.
Okay, so what's the first thing that's created? Now, let's just be honest. There is, all right, let me do this for you. There is in every culture a creation myth. This, modern, most Jews do not believe this literally happened. We don't think the world was created in 6 days and all that. But the myth reflects the philosophy of the people. When you look at people's mythology, you understand their values, the way they think about things. So what is the first thing in Jewish creation myth that's created? What's the first thing?
The light, the heaven and earth.
But even before heaven and earth,
Light.
light. And so that's an amazing thing. Light, which is enlightenment and it's holiness and it's understanding. I mean, what are all the meanings of light? So in Judaism, the first thing it's created is light. And what does God call his creation?
Good.
Good. And you'll see that each day, God saw that it was good. And it'll be interesting to look at the first time God says it's not good, because this is exactly what we're studying and what we're talking about. Okay, so
And when he says very good, that's another thing.
Yeah, that's we'll see that, and there's something interesting about that. Okay, so now verse 6. I have to remember who. Merle. Merle, are you there? Merle? No. Okay, Anne.
I was trying to get unmuted.
Okay, Merle's all right. Merle and then Anne. Go ahead.
Okay. And God said, "Let there be an expanse in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters." And God made the expanse and separated the waters that were under the expanse from the waters that were above the expanse. And it was so. And God called the expanse heaven, and there was evening and there was morning the second day.
Heaven or sky is another translation. Sky, not necessarily. Okay, keep going. And
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
In the previous paragraph, it says, "And there was evening and there was morning the first day." In the second one, "And there was evening and there was morning the second day." What's the significance of saying that?
Well, okay, very interesting. We're dividing the different days.
Yeah.
What happened each day in this story. However, there's no sun yet. So what's a day? It could be a billion years. So if you think about science, and when you think about let there be light, it could be the big boom. You know, if you think about it, it's kind of interesting that it's whoop, and then a day is not a human day because there is no day, but there's morning and there's evening. Now, you didn't even know, Leslie, but this is very interesting. Because it says there is evening and there is morning, shouldn't it usually be there was morning and there was evening?
Right.
That is why all Jewish holidays start the night before. Because
Oh.
because it says evening. So, obviously the day starts the night at sundown. So
Got
that is why we light candles and do all our holidays at night until the next night from this story. And you'll see as we study all these stories, how the rabbis took different things and said, this is the tradition because it's in the story. Even if we don't believe the story, I think it's kind of beautiful that as the darkness starts, we light the candles to create the light. Let there be light until the next day. So that was a good question. Okay, so who was reading? Merle.
I was. And God said, let the waters under the heavens be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. God called the dry land earth, and the waters that were gathered together he called seas. And God saw that it was good.
Okay, keep going because this is all one day.
And God said, let the earth sprout vegetation, plants yielding seed, and fruit trees bearing fruit in which is their seed, each according to its kind on the earth. And it was so. The earth brought forth vegetation, plants yielding seed according to their own kinds, and trees bearing fruit in which is their seed, each according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening and there was morning the third day.
I think that is a wrong translation. I'm going to look at the Hebrew because I think it says on the third day, this was good. When did he say very good?
Not yet.
When
Wait.
human beings were created.
No, there was evening and there was morning a second day, and he saw that this was good. Oh, he says it's good twice. It's not that it's very good, but he says this was good and that was good on the third day. Third day is a Tuesday because Shabbat is the last day, so that's Saturday. So the first day is Sunday. And in Hebrew, it's called Yom Rishon, which means first day. And the second day is Monday, Yom Sheni, second day. And the third day is Tuesday. And because it says God saw it was good twice, this is the tradition in Orthodox communities to have weddings on Tuesdays.
Oh.
Because it's good twice on Tuesday.
Oh.
So, yeah. Okay. So that's the third day. So, Anne, do you want to read 14, verse 14?
Okay. And God said, let there be lights in the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years, and let them be lights in the expanse of the heavens to give light upon the earth. And it was so. And God made the two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night, and the stars. And God set them in the expanse of the heavens to give light on the earth, to rule over the day and over the night, and to separate the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good, and there was evening and there was morning the fourth day.
So if you ever come to Friday night services, and after the Baruch Hu, the prayer that's like the call to prayer, there's this beautiful prayer we read in English, and it says, blessed are you, O Lord our God, who called the evening into being and created day and night. But this idea that also, I think we should notice in our Jewish creation myth, there's no violence. It's speech. And it says something about speech. Speech can create and destroy. Speech is very, very powerful. But also there are other myths where They swallow each other, they burst out of their bellies, they kill each other, they do all this stuff. If you look at other ancient Near Eastern creation myths, this myth is very gentle. It's God speaks and things come into being. And it's in this beautiful order. If you look at the order, it's unfolding. First, there's light. Then there's the sky and the earth. Then there's, vegetation. Then it's interesting. First, there's vegetation. Then there's like the sun and the moon and the stars. And it's just unfolding in this beautiful pattern of peace and beauty. I think that says something a lot about what we value in our culture as Jews, just in our story. And you'll see in the second story, it's slightly different. Okay, so, sorry about that. All right, we didn't get to man yet. Hold on. Okay, and then did you just finish the fourth day, Anne? You did the fourth
Yes.
day. Okay,
Uh-huh.
just read one more.
Okay. And God said,
Whoop. Sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah.
And God said, let the waters swarm with swarms of living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the expanse of the heavens. So God created the great sea creatures and every living creature that moves, with which the waters swarm, according to their kinds, and every winged bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was good.
So if you know evolution, it's kind of interesting because what's the order of evolution in terms of it's first fish, and then they crawl out onto the land, and then they're birds, and then mammals. And so how do they know that it evolved in this order? It's kind of ingenious or intuitive or something. Okay, and just finish the blessing.
And God blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas, and let birds multiply on the earth. And there was evening and there was morning, the fifth day.
Thank you. Okay, Stacy,
Yeah.
read verse 24.
Okay. And God said, let the earth bring forth living creatures according to their kinds, livestock and creeping things and beasts of the earth according to their kinds. And it was so.
Like even acknowledging there are species. It's kind of amazing. Okay.
And God made the beasts of the earth according to their kinds, and the livestock according to their kinds, and everything that creeps on the ground according to its kind. And God saw it was good.
Go on.
Then God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness.
Okay, let's stop there. Who's us? What is that us? Let us make man in our image. Okay, and in Hebrew, hi Aaron, welcome. Nice to see you. In Hebrew, the word is not man. It's Adam, which like we say Adam, but that wasn't his name. Adam is a being made from the earth or from red. Adom is red. It's like a human. You'd really be saying, let us make a human in our own image. It's not a man. That's wrong. So who's our? What do you think that? Now we're going to get into the discussion. Take a guess. Our. There's a lot of discussion about it.
Well, one of the midrashim thinks it says it could be a heavenly court of angels and the others, and it could also be in our image. I mean, if you consult the animals that he already made, Adam has something of heaven in heavenly angels, but also something of creatures, of beasts. So he's both he's both. That's one
Okay.
of them.
So did you understand what she said, Susan said? Okay. So there's a thinking that when God said, let us make man in our image, he was talking about there's angels, which are pure beings. I mean, this is all mythology, but this idea that there are pure beings that live in the realm of God who can't really do sin. But also, he's also created animals, right? And there are bestial and animal qualities. We have heavenly qualities, we have divine qualities, we also have sexual appetites, we have jealousy, we have murder, we have, bad behavior. So God made a person or a being that would have both lofty and lower qualities. Why would God do that? Why would God not make a perfect being?
Because he's making somebody that's lower than him.
But he has angel. But why make somebody with the capacity to sin?
Because you have to choose to do good.
That's right. And also, it's in order to give, this is like the Hasidic idea or the Talmud, to give them the Torah. We can't give people the Torah if they don't need it, if they're perfect. So it's an idea to prepare them, but also this idea of choosing, though you'll see that he tells them not to choose something. We know the famous story, they eat the apple and it's not even an apple, it's really a fruit. But since Michelangelo painted an apple, we all think it's an apple, but it was, they just say fruit. But anyway, but this idea of choosing or not being perfect, but having to grow into something. The other idea was also that the world was not finished being created. That it says, when they said, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Another translation is, in the beginning, God was creating, and that God's still creating, and that human beings have a part in creation to make the world a better place. And in order to make the world a better place, I mean, angels can't do that. Angels only can, this is like the myth about Jewish angels. They have one task. They can only do one thing. They can make one task and then their job is over, and they don't have the ability to redeem or do teshuvah. So another story, Midrash, is that before the world was created, God created a few other things. First, this is nowhere in the book. The Torah, the name of the Messiah, and teshuvah. Teshuvah meaning repentance. So if God already created repentance before he created beings, he must have known that what?
We would sin.
We would sin. So that's
going to be perfect.
Right. We're not going to be
perfect. So Rabbi, I have a question too. Getting back to this likeness thing, which is, I mean, this is my first time taking a class like this, so this is all kind of new and very interesting. But I've always been told God created man in his likeness. I hadn't heard the hour. Religions all say, not all say, in particular Christianity, that you hear that there's this being up there and we look just like him. And so in idols and in pictures and whatnot, God looks like, the man with the big white beard kind of thing. How did that kind of morph? Because what you're saying, which makes a lot more sense, is in our likeness, a little of this, a little of that, a little of that. How did that get into we look exactly like God and we're supposed to be just like God?
I think in mythology, you didn't think that the people look like God because the gods were perfect and physically beautiful and powerful, and Athena and Zeus. I mean, I don't think that we look like them. But once Christianity decided that Jesus was God, you know what I mean? I think there was this more of an idea. I don't think other religions I think they saw them looking human, but not like them, or, but superhuman. In Judaism, there's a thing.
Even like the Greek gods, like they're beautiful.
But they're human looking.
Helen of Troy was beautiful, right? Like there were still beautiful humans. They were all beautiful and perfect and didn't have to work out all that stuff.
I mean, when there was great beauty, they would say, oh, they slept with a god. A lot of times they'd say they're God. But I want to go back to Judaism for 1 second, and then we can continue this. The rabbis discussed this and talked about it, how we couldn't be in a physical likeness because people don't look alike. There's so many different people. So obviously it doesn't mean a literal looking like. No two people, unless you're a twin, or a triplet, look alike. So the likeness must be a spiritual ability, a soul likeness. within us, we have what we call the divine spark. The divine spark of God in every human being, which is, I call our holy potential. Our potential to be godlike, meaning kind, loving, generous, compassionate, that those qualities. So that's how we look at it in Judaism.
Because I also wonder, I'm going to create man in our likeness, my likeness, our likeness, our. It's very egotistical to me. And that's a flawed character right there, right?
Unless you are a representative, I mean, everybody is an image of God. That's another idea in Judaism. Every human being is an image of God, or a Tselem Elohim. They're made in B'Tselem Elohim, in the image of God, meaning we need to honor, respect, and, accept and connect with every human being, because we're all created in that divine image. Bonnie, are you raising your hand?
No, sorry.
That's okay. Oh, Lori.
I don't know where I got this concept, but it must have come from early Hebrew school. I always thought of that we or our as almost a royal we.
That's another thing.
Yeah.
So that he was, God was, he, she, God was thinking in terms of his constituents or his people, and that he was, well, king of the universe. So I guess that's where that comes from too. So,
Well, it's interesting. One of the words for God is Elohim, like Eloheinu, Elohim, and anything ending in im in Hebrew is plural.
yeah.
But certain words that are plural are things that have no beginning and no end, like mayim is water. And there's no, water is, there's no start and end, there's water. And hayim is life. Again, we die, but it's like this idea of life. And shamayim is sky, or the heavens, which again is like this enormous thing. So there is this idea that when we're referring to the infinite, in a way, we refer to it in the plural in Hebrew, which I guess the translator, the only way to convey this idea of infinity was to say our, as opposed to my, because we don't have a word for that. So it could be that. I don't know if that works for you. Okay, so now we're going to create human beings, and here is a big discussion. Okay, where is it? And who was reading? Stacey.
I was reading. Yeah.
Okay, continue.
Am I at number 26?
Yeah.
Then God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth." So God created man in
Okay, well, let's say human. Let's use the word human.
Okay. So God created human in his own image. In the image of God, he created him, human.
Go on.
Male and female, he created them.
So this idea is that God created one human, male and female, one human. And so there's this idea that the first living being was connected, man and woman, one being. This is the story, this idea, like they shared a spine, or they were back to back or side to side. They were one human being. And that there's another story that God created a different woman than Eve, a first wife. Well, Eve is not even, I don't know why they call her Eve. It's Chava, which means we'll see woman. There was a first wife named Lilith.
Oh, I know that one.
Okay, so why don't you share what you know about Lilith?
Well, no, you do it. I don't.
Oh, you do it. Go ahead.
I don't remember. I learned it in college, but it was, you say it.
Okay, so the first wife was named Lilith, which comes from the word Lila, which means light, dark, night. And it's not in the Torah. This is a story, okay? Because why? This is another thing. They go, well, why are there two stories of creation? There's two different ways, because we know we're going to read, maybe not, about making her from the rib, right? We all know the story that God took her from the rib. This is not the story. This is the first story that people don't realize there are two stories. They say first he created Lilith, and Lilith wouldn't listen to Adam.
Right.
He tried to bless her, and she refused. And Adam complained, the man complained to God, and they turned her. This is like male bias, misogyny,
Right.
to a demon. They turned her into a demon. Lilith, she's a demon, and she had children, and God killed her children. This is not in the Torah, but this is what these men wrote. And then she became jealous, and she would try to kill women when they were pregnant or make them have miscarriages. And that's why in Middle Ages, women wore amulets against Lilith, that they should ward her off. And even today, there are people, my girlfriends, she's Sephardic. They tie a red ribbon around the baby's crib, or the mother wears a red ribbon against Lilith.
Hmm.
Oh,
So Lilith
I have
was
something to add, Rabbi.
what?
I have something to add to that story.
Please.
Also, something else that was added is that Lilith wanted equality with Adam.
That's
So
right.
that's why God and Adam didn't like her. So it wasn't just that she wouldn't be submissive, is that she wanted equality.
You're absolutely right. She wanted equality. And the rabbis who were like saying, well, why are there two stories? And why is there one where she's literally side by side with him? And the next one, she's coming out of his rib. It's because the first woman wanted equality, and they weren't having any of that. As the writers of the Torah were not having any of that, were they? No.
So I have something to add. That's the major reason I had heard of Lilith. You said Lilith comes from the Hebrew word of light. Is that what?
Lila, not dark, night.
Night. Now that makes sense. Night. And I've lived long enough that I remember when the feminist movement got started, there was a magazine called Lilith.
Yes,
Right.
there was.
You
Not
remember
only
that?
was there a magazine, the editor was Susanna Heschel, who is the daughter of
She was the editor?
Yep. Of
We're now
by
reading her
Abraham
book on
Joshua
Heschel.
Heschel, who's one of our most famous rabbis of the 20th century, who marched with Martin Luther King, at Selma. So this was his daughter. I think she's a rabbi too, or she's certainly a professor. And she started Lilith magazine, which was the idea of like, yes, we want equality, and it's about time, and yay, Lilith. Go Lilith. So this was the first. Okay, so if you look at the philosophy of the first creation story, what is it? Would you say?
Well, I'm still confused on Lilith. Can we go back to that
sure.
for 1 second? Because we got Lilith who is sort of jealous, whatever, and makes women miscarry or kills them while pregnant. Yet she represents, for lack of a better word, feminism.
No, she wanted equality.
Equality.
She wanted equality.
So
and
I don't know. There's a disconnect for me.
Yeah, but the rabbis said, oh, she wanted equality, and so that's a demonic idea for a woman to want to be equal to a man. So they turned her into, the rabbis made up the story about her.
Of course they did.
But the part that we look at in the Torah is that the first human had a male and female creation side by side. That's what's in the Torah. Then the rabbis turned this whole thing into the Lilith thing. And then the feminists reclaimed her. They said she wasn't a demon. She was a, woman who wanted equality. They reject the demonizing part, the feminists.
Side by side it implies equality, side by side.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
But then the rabbi said this wasn't Eve. This was another woman, because the second story that we're going to read, she comes out of his rib and she's subservient to him. So why are there two stories? There's two different views of woman in the Torah. The
Because
first,
all religions hold women down.
Well, there's some,
well, we're talking about original religion, right? Okay,
we
yeah.
could still have some comments on that also. Side by side is equality. The rabbis put it as domination, where Lilith would be over the man, and that's a different thing than equality. But some other interpretations of this, which I seem to like, is the, if not bisexual, but the fact that women have some male hormones and men have some women hormones. And there one can see this first human being having some, we're not talking about politics here, we're talking about human constitution. So
I like that.
I like that too.
Also, there's a beautiful midrash, another story that in terms of soul, from this idea of side by side, there's this idea that you are one soul before you're created, and then you're split into male and female, and that's your beshert, and you look for your other half, which is
Yeah.
like the idea as your beshert comes also from this story that you'll meet him because you were together before you were born, and now you're finding each other. Though we know that not everybody finds their beshert, but okay. So let's just wait. I got to go to share or it doesn't work. I want to show you. God, there's so much we could do more if we were all in the same room. It's unbelievable. Okay, now I'm going to show you something very interesting that I know most of you don't know. And God bless them. Okay, Mary, why don't you read?
Okay.
28.
And God blessed them, and God said to them, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the birds of the heavens and over every living thing that moves on the earth.
So I just want to point out the first mitzvah in the Torah commandment is have sex and have children. Be fruitful and multiply. That's the first mitzvah, the first commandment that God gives to humans. Have children and multiply. But then read a little more, Mary, because now we're going to see something interesting.
And God said, behold, I have given you every plant yielding seed that is on the face of the earth, and every tree with seed in its fruit. You shall have them for food.
Okay. What do you not have for food?
Animals.
Animals.
Human beings were meant to be vegetarians in the Torah, not to eat meat. We weren't supposed to eat the animals. It's not in our story that we're eating animals. And literally, in the desert, in the story of the Israelites going across the desert, there's a chapter where they start saying, we want meat, we want meat, we really want meat. And they start complaining about not getting any meat. And then God says, you want meat? Fine. And he sends quails, quails, and they eat so much they all get sick and throw up because he's so disgusted with them. And also, one of the ideas of the kosher laws is to make it not so easy to eat meat. You know what I mean? In the ancient world, Jews did not eat meat. Let me turn this off for a second so we can see each other. Except most of the time when they went to sacrifice, when you would take a sacrifice to the temple, 3 times a year, we're talking really most of it, you would go for Sukkot, Pesach and Shavuot, Passover and Shavuot. You were supposed to go and give a sacrifice of Thanksgiving or holiday or whatever. And when you sacrificed this animal, some of it was burned to God, some of it was given to the priest, and some of it was given to the family. And you would sit down and basically have barbecue together. And that was like thousands of years ago, was this idea that you were all connecting to God in holiness and ever through the sacrifice, so you got to eat meat. Otherwise, it was mainly cheese and eggs and fruits and vegetables and bread and things like that.
They were vegetarian, but not vegan.
They weren't vegan, no.
But they were still eating animal products.
Yeah, they weren't vegan.
They weren't vegan. They were eating milk and cheese and eggs and blah, 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 but they
Because,
weren't.
but it didn't say that in the previous paragraph.
No, it
Oh.
didn't. You're right. It
I
just
mean,
said,
they didn't, eating an egg doesn't result, or butter or whatever, doesn't result in the death of that cow or chicken.
exactly. But the idea of creating, yeah, that's okay. Oh, yeah, that's okay.
That one.
Yeah, it's just down the hall and to your left, on the left side. But this idea that you weren't supposed to eat these beautiful, brand newly created living beings. I mean, they're a day or two old, and don't eat them. You can take care of them, watch over them, be in charge of them, but don't eat them, which we all do. And I always feel bad about it. My daughter is vegetarian. She was a vegan for many years, and
So Rav Kook was a vegetarian?
I believe it. And so is Isaac Bashevis Singer, the writer. And they said to him, do you do it for health reasons? And he said, yes, for the health of the animals.
Rabbi, I'm sorry, I didn't hear Susan say. Who did she say was a
Rav
vegetarian?
Kook, who was the first chief rabbi of Israel when Israel was newly created.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
Oh, I have a comment.
Yeah.
I was saying to my son the other day, because he will not kill an ant or anything. If there's a little insect somewhere in our home, he picks it up and puts it outside.
That's beautiful.
And I was saying, when you think about it, every single animal has a mouth, a nose, 2 eyes, and ears maybe somewhere. And so do we. And I thought, wow, that's something to think about, that you don't really are so closely developed to animals in a different way physically. I don't know if I know that's appropriate to what we're reading, but
it is. I mean, I don't think in our creation myth, the intention was not to eat them. I mean, pigs apparently are as smart as 3-year-olds.
right.
You know what I mean? It's really like, what? It's terrible.
Oh,
Yeah, I know, right?
yeah,
Well,
right.
Rabbi, this is just so when did the kosher laws over meat evolve? Or not evolve,
Well,
but
they
come into being?
involved when the Torah was given, which the Torah was given like in 1100 or 1200 BCE was when, actually, no, that's when the Exodus supposedly took place, around then. So if you're being, it depends what calendar there was some kind of kosher laws, I guess, by certainly King David's time, and maybe in the times of the prophets or whatever. But the creation story, is way before that. Or we don't know, because
Well, the kosher laws are in the Torah.
they're in the Torah, but when was the Torah written? 800, 900 BCE, was written much later than the calendar says the Exodus took place, which is when we supposedly got the Torah. So it's not clear. Actually, I'm going to research if I can find out when the Torah laws were, in historical ideas. Okay. And to every beast of the earth and every bird of the heavens and to everything that creeps on the earth, everything that has breath of life, I've given every green plant for food. And it was so. And God saw that what he'd made, it was very good. Here it is, human beings and or is it human beings or everything he looked at. Just think how beautiful the world is. It's very good. So I was talking about what's the philosophy in the first story? And I guess we're going to have to do the second story next week. But the first story has this beautiful order. There's an order. First, there's nothing, there's light, and then there's, we talked about it. There's like an evolution, like evolution, kind of the world. And the last thing is human beings. And so we are part of a huge pattern. We're part of a whole creation. And we fit in the pattern. We don't dominate the pattern. We don't run the sky or run the heavens or whatever. We are part of this pattern. In the second story, it starts with man right at the center. Like in one, it's more like we are the universe. And in the second story, it's like man is the center of the universe. It's more egocentric as we'll see. But before then, so that was the first chapter of the Torah, and it was this beautiful like mosaic of creation. And then we have Shabbat on the beginning of the second day. So Linda, just why don't you read this?
The seventh day God rests. Thus the heavens and earth were finished, and all the hosts of them. And on the seventh day God finished his work that he had done, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work that he had done. So God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it God rested from all his work that he had done in creation.
So in Hebrew, that is the Kiddush. That is part of the blessing over the wine, is that paragraph. Before you say Borei Pri Hagafen, you talk about how it says that God finished his work and he looked and he saw it was beautiful and God rested. What do you make of this idea of a deity resting? What does that mean?
Did he want to sit back and enjoy what he created?
Okay, but why? Okay, any other idea?
He was thinking,
Need rest.
next.
What?
He was thinking about what was coming.
What
next.
was coming next? Okay, any other ideas? Why?
I have a slightly different view, which is that the Torah, the Bible, was written by man, in my opinion, and man needed to rest.
Well, that's
Right.
interesting.
That's
Okay,
what I agree with
Yvonne, did you have an
But that
idea?
is-
I said to rest, that he needed to rest.
That
that
God
was
needed
mine.
to rest.
Yeah.
Does God need to rest?
Why would God need to rest?
Well, he's got a big job. I don't know.
Yeah.
And also, it means to cease work, I think.
Okay.
So that was another interpretation.
Okay,
So-
but he never created again. So it's a long rest. Could be.
Yeah. Oh,
mean-
maybe.
So, and by the way, this is considered and then because God rested, humans rested. But if
Yeah.
you look at in the Ten
Mhm.
Commandments about Shabbat, where it talks about it, who else rests on that day?
The beasts of the earth.
People.
You, your
Animals?
family,
Your servants.
your servants, your slaves, your workers, your animals.
Animals?
Your land rests every 7 years, actually, but you don't do any work on the land. This was considered a crazy, radical idea in the world. Nowhere in the world was there a day of rest before the Jews introduced the idea. It was considered insane. The Romans and the Greeks said the Jews are lazy.
Yeah.
They don't work 1 day a week. What's wrong with them? And that you let your slaves or your servants take a day off, was unheard of idea. It's a brilliant idea. And now the whole world has it. I don't think there's any place in the world where there isn't a day off or a day of rest, this kind of idea. So the writers of the Torah had this, this is where you think genius or divine inspiration or whatever, to come up with this idea that let's make God rest and then we'll all rest. And rest is important. And maybe they saw the difference when people rested, how they were able to then function in a better and healthier way, mentally, physically, emotionally. Also, this just strikes me, the rich people, the wealthy, had leisure. They didn't work. A lot of them just sat around and drank and whatever. And they were probably lived longer, were healthier. Somebody said, what if everybody had some time to replenish? It's like a light bulb kind of idea. And the Torah, this was written so before anybody had ideas like this. It's unbelievable. So
It was written before the Romans.
way before the Romans. So the Romans started in Julius Caesar was 50 or 75 BC. This was written 900 BCE. It was when we say BCE, we don't say BC. Because the BC is before Christ. So we say before the Common Era. We say BCE, meaning before Christ. But anyway, so let's be honest. it's like radical, brilliant thing. That's just one thing that Jews, and also and this will end on this, to make sex a commandment, a mitzvah from God, and to make it like be fruitful and multiply, to do that, not just, randomly rape or this or that, but to put it in this holy context. Also, you'll see how Judaism takes normal life and tries to elevate it. So it has meaning and beauty. And it also creates good relationships. I mean, the one line that we didn't get to see that we'll look at next time is in the next chapter, where the first lo tov, not good, is when God says it is not good for man to be alone. When he creates Eve in the second story. But we could expand that to loneliness in general in the world. It's not good. In Judaism, we don't believe in you being alone. Everything is a minyan. Everything is a community. I mean, people's like, all right, leave me alone. Give me a break. But you don't have to be alone in Judaism, and it's not good. It's really unhealthy. So this was our first class. We just got to the first relationships, but now we're going to look at Eve, first of all, being subservient and then having a mind of her own. And the big question for next time is, do you think, was it a good thing or bad thing that she gave the fruit, ate the fruit? Was it a good thing or was it a bad thing? And let's talk about that in 2 weeks. And I hope more of you will come. It'd be so nice to have you in person so we could look at our books and read commentary and all that stuff. So it was great to see you all, and I look forward to
Thank you
seeing
so much. It was
you,
wonderful.
Rabbi. So good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wish I could be there in person, but it's
Yeah, I
kind of
know
hard.
you would come for sure. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks. Have a great week, everyone.
Glad to see you, Meryl.
And good to see you too.
Bye, ladies.
And like, good that you
It's
came.
always good to be a part of it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Welcome, Yvonne.
Can't do much traveling until after high holidays because we'll be gone next week. So.
Oh, right. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
How do I get out of this?